Hello, Brad here, just to say we're super proud that the Friday 5pm podcast is sponsored by the Malt Miller, the UK's best home brew store.
We use the Malt Miller for all of our homebrew experiments, as well as tapping them up for advice and binging on their awesome YouTube channel all the time.
That's why whenever we release a homebrew video, we put a recipe kit live on the Malt Miller, so you can brew with the exact same amazing ingredients that we did. The same ingredients used by pro brewers.
So alongside the Malt Miller's nitro-flushed hops, cold-stored yeast and milled-to-order malts, you can pick up recipe kits for our 5 Points Best Bitter, Russian River West Coast IPA, and now the fastest beer in the world, a hazy session IPA that goes from grain to glass in less than 48 hours.
Sign up to their newsletter at tinyurl.com/Malt Miller to get 5% off your first order. With the Malt Miller's amazing customer service and Johnny's 48-hour recipe, you could order the ingredients on a Monday and be drinking the beer by the weekend.
Speaking of which, it's Friday.
It's 5pm.
So enjoy this week's Friday 5pm podcast. It's Friday, it's 5pm, and I think it's time. We've been lifting the lid, albeit unintentionally, of late anyway on the podcast, and I think we need to talk about the fact that every time we hit record, there's then like a 30-second silence while I try to come up with an intro. And you've never jumped in, Brad. You've never gone, I've got one.
Nah,
Have you got one?
It's Friday, it's 5pm, and we're recording live on a Thursday morning. I'm drinking a Costa coffee in a can. I haven't got any donuts with me. I don't eat donuts for breakfast. I wish I did, but then I'd be in even more trouble than I already am.
Surely on brand, it has to be a cinnamon roll.
From a
garage.
cinnamon roll. Yeah. I tell you what, though, Johnny, I have been eating donuts this week because I was on holiday in the Isle of Wight. Or on the Isle of Wight, should I say.
Wait, is there a link between the Isle of Wight and donuts?
Yeah. I went to... what's it called? Shanklin Chine. Well, I didn't actually go to the Chine, but Shanklin. And I went to the lovely little... There's a pub on the beach which is only accessible via the beach, pretty much. There's a little path as well, but locals go via the beach. And I was drinking some Goddards, basically on the beach, and it was a bit windy and that. But before I went there, I had some live, plopped out in front of me donuts with cinnamon sugar.
Oh, is it like the trashy donuts you get on the seaside?
Yeah, man.
Where probably the chips are fried in the same oil.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, luckily he didn't sell chips, so I knew that they were
purely
unmolested.
Wow.
Pure donuts. So this guy just sells donuts. I've had them there before. I'd give him a shout out, but I can't actually remember what his little beach hut thing is called. But they're pretty good. He sells donuts. He's got ice creams going there as well. He's in a hut. He's got a wall of slushies. I'm not a slushy fan, but he's got at least 4 slushy machines turning all the time.
This dude is single-handedly raising the blood pressure of the Isle of Wight.
Yeah, he's doing his bit, Johnny. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So we were very sensible, right? Me and my girlfriend Kirsty. We had 3 donuts, and they weren't huge donuts, and that was the jumping off point. So 3 donuts cost £3, I believe. You could get 5 donuts for £4, Johnny. So in your head, you're already like, oh, I'm getting that 5th donut free there, which is tempting. You go up to 7 donuts, Johnny, £5. So you're like, damn, this is getting cheap. 2 free donuts, 9 donuts, I think, dropped down to £7. So it was like, that isn't the sweet point. But
I can't believe that this podcast has devolved to Brad just explaining how much donuts cost at a beach hut in the Isle of Wight. I'm also now having, it could be deja vu, but I think you've told us about this donut place before.
Well, I am working on getting a 6th donut free, maybe, if you order 5, by shouting the man out so much.
Right. Okay. Is he a listener?
But yeah. Probably not.
Probably not.
Depressingly, he said he was there every day because I said, "Oh, we can come back and get some more another day," and he was like, "I'll be here every day." But he's kind of
did he say it with an element of darkness?
It felt a bit dark when he said it because I was like, "This is." I mean, it's nice. He's got a nice view, but I thought, well, this man needs a little bit of a break from the constant donut fest. But yeah, Fisherman's Cottage Inn, down on the beach. I had a half a pint of Goddard's something or other, which was tasting pretty good on cask, nicely conditioned.
Something or other is not the name of this beer, I presume. You can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember. I
good
think
name
I had
for a beer though.
Beachcombers was one that I had. I can't remember whether that was a Goddard's one or something else, but that was tasting pretty good. It was a nice place, the Isle of Wight, Johnny. Apart from, I went with my mum and my sister's family, and my mum had booked quite a nice sort of house for us to stay in, which is very kind. Thank you, Mum. And it had a really big kitchen, very fully featured, double oven, and then like a microwave as well, like on the same bit. So like a triple sort of future
like a
space.
Tower Brewery, but ovens.
Dude, ovens.
Gravity.
High.
Does it first start in the microwave, drop down into the first oven, drop down into the next oven, and then it's done?
I think the microwave was at the bottom. I'm going to say the microwave
Oh, okay, so you reheat
bottom.
it at the end.
I don't know. But anyway, Johnny, I didn't do well because I was cooking pizza, homemade pizzas for everyone, in the actual big oven. And as I opened the door of the big oven, the small oven above. This is the first day I was there. The small oven door above, when I opened the big oven door, exploded, and glass flew everywhere. Hot glass
on the pizza,
over the floor, on the pizza,
no.
all over the floor. And my sister's kids, 3 little kids, were all like crying, like terrified. Uncle Brad had made like the oven explode, essentially.
Classic Uncle Brad.
Classic stupid Uncle Brad. Although I don't think I did anything wrong, and we did Google it, and apparently oven doors can just explode with heat.
How far down into Google
crazy.
did you have to go before you found that story of the oven door exploding? You're like, guys, it definitely wasn't me, because page 11 of Google, it happened to someone else. Right, okay.
Exactly. Yeah, page 11 of Google. That's right, Johnny.
Was everyone safe?
Everyone was safe, although I did get
some.
I did cut my hand a little bit, but it's fine. Considering the monumental sort of way it happened, the really annoying thing was when it shattered, all of the little tiny bits of safety glass, they went into little squares. They went down into the bottom oven, which was obviously really hot, and they went in the hinges of the door. So as you were trying to open and close the door, it was crunching with all this little bits of glass. Now, I, being a man of paranoia, I carry around almost like a kind of go bag. Not a go bag, but like an end of the world type little mini kit of tools in my car and on my person or whatever. So
you're you're a survivalist, but on the go. You're not
sort of.
You're not bunkering.
Yeah.
You just
I'm not bunkering. We're talking about a very small bag that has a few little things in, some medical stuff.
Zombie
like
spray.
Multi-tool, zombie spray, bit of duct tape. So I fashioned a tool like a monkey man who uses early primitive tools. I fashioned this tool to get me down into these little bits in between the hinges, Johnny. Right, really recessed, like you couldn't get anything down there. We tried eyebrow tweezers that Kirsty had. They wouldn't reach. And I had to go to my go bag, and I've got a little lighter that's wrapped in duct tape, Johnny. You can wrap like a meter of duct tape around a lighter. It doesn't take up much room. So I unwrapped a bit of the duct tape, and then I folded it back on itself on like a cocktail stick. And then I used that as a very sticky little grabbing device to get the little bits of glass out of the hinges. And it bloody worked, mate. It took me ages, but I've got all these little bits of glass that were like impossible to get without. I thought I was going to have to take the whole door off to get them out. But, mate, I did it. So the go bag came in handy. Isle of Wight, who would have thought it, needed the go bag. So there you go. Donuts were good though, Johnny.
Right. Brad, beer. You have gone into incredible detail about every moment of this holiday except the beer that you had when you didn't remember the name of it, or who brewed the other one you do remember the name of.
Beachcomber, I think it was Goddard's. It might have been the other brewery, which I can't remember what they're called.
Remarkable.
I drank some Allagash White, Johnny, when I was there, out of a giant can, a pint can, and it was good, but it wasn't as great as I've ever had an Allagash White before, and I think it was just a bit tempered by smashing an oven,
right?
Just before, yeah.
Well, I had an Allagash White. It was tasting great this week.
Awesome, nice.
And I also drank, because I practice what I preach. I also drank a Tudno Pils last night to celebrate.
Oh, mate.
Celebrate the release of the video, and because of those two beers, forgot to post the Instagram push for the video last night. So if you get news of the uploads from Instagram, I apologise about my tardiness. I'll post it. I'll post it tonight, probably.
That's Tudno banging.
Oh, such a good beer.
Absolutely banging.
It's really, because when you're filming, I mean, I hadn't had Tudno Pils. I'd had their hoppy lager, which we mentioned in the video, which I think is the same recipe. They've just sort of rebranded it and made it a core beer or a seasonal beer, not quite sure. But it's always a relief, because on shoot, you're not really, certainly with the What Even Is episodes, you're not fully engaging with the beer in its entirety, because you're thinking, about the history of it, about the recipe of it. I'm talking to you. We're wondering about whether we've actually hit record. And so sometimes we go back to a beer and go, oh, that's not as good as I thought. Or that's way better than I remember it being while we were filming. And Tudno Pils was just as good as I remember it being on the day. Just a stunning, crisp, clean hop aroma of citrus and pine, and a little bit of kind of stickiness from the Simcoe, and then just wickedly clean and pilsnery and biting. Just a brilliant beer.
I feel like I'm back there with you, Johnny, drinking it. It was a fantastically good beer. North Wales, epic part of the world, Johnny. I've been watching, not to divert too much, over Easter. It just happened to have on TV. I'm not a religious person. They had this program on BBC called Pilgrimage, and it was some celebrities walking the North Wales Celtic Christian Trail, which goes through ancient parts of North Wales, sort of 6th century churches and stuff, and it just looked beautiful, mate. The countryside they were walking through was incredible. I'm going on about this because those guys are from North Wales, aren't they?
Yes. Good clarification. I should. Apparently, I guess Alan did know there are direct trains from Euston. Although currently anybody living in London will know there are basically no trains from Euston at the moment. But you can get there direct from Euston. So I think there might be a Wild Horse feature in the offing.
Indeed.
If not this year, next year.
I'd love that. I'd love to go there and do a bit of walking, do a bit of drinking. A little bit like that Bill Bailey show as well, which I've only watched the first one, but the kind of walking to a pub.
Yeah, apparently the beer doesn't really feature at all.
Oh, right, okay.
Which is a bit of a shame. Yeah. I mean, for a shame for us, I'm sure the general public are like, this is amazing, but all the beer industry people I've watched have been like, oh, amazing, pubs and beer's going to get a little shout out, and nothing. But
nothing.
I'm still going to watch all of them because Bill.
Bill's great.
Yeah, so maybe we will be headed to North Wales soon. I will admit, and maybe people have started to notice, there's a lot of studio sessions going on because we are incredibly busy with multiple other projects, which we're nearly at the point of announcing soon, as well as our app, which we're hoping is reaching the final phases. But we are going to a brewery in about 2 weeks, aren't we, Brad? To brew something.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this. It's a brewery that was in our celebration last year, which we didn't make a film about, so that probably gives away who it is. But they're fantastic, and they're one of your local breweries, aren't they, Johnny?
One of my local breweries. I mean, still half an hour away, but when you
Pretty
live in the
local.
sticks, that's what happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to Barron. We're going to be brewing an IPA version of Short Shorts, which
Nice.
was a Simcoe Strata hazy pale. We have learnt from that recipe. We're going to be upping the bitterness. Going to be adding some Motueka.
Ooh.
We're going to be giving it a little bit, because we thought that the original beer had that beautiful kind of sticky, Simcoe-y, strata-y, stone fruity, weedy kind of character that we were looking for, but it lacked a little bit of kind of acidity and pop. So we're going to add some lemony, limey kind of element to it to make it just a little bit more angular on the aroma.
Beautiful.
And we're going to be we've been talking about the recipe quite a lot, me and Jack, and we've tweaked his water, his standard water for his hazies, and also we're going to be adding hops throughout the boil to try and raise the bitterness and create a bit of structure. So it's sort of pushing away from New England a little bit, headed a little bit towards the coast, probably somewhere in, I don't know, western Pennsylvania.
Mate, can't
Coastwise.
wait.
Yeah,
It's not. I thought it was on a farm for some reason, but it's not on a farm.
No, it is on a farm.
Oh, it is on a farm.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, cool.
Yeah, definitely on a farm. I don't think the building's built by him, but everything else is. So it's got proper charm to it. Charm on the farm.
Nice.
It's going to be
Charm on the
a
farm.
great video. And then the plan is, when that beer comes out, because it will be packaged and sold, it's called Board Shorts. In reference to the original Short Shorts. We're hoping to A, obviously sell that beer, but B, to do a live show with Jack, with some other of his beers for everybody at home. So watch out for that. That'll probably be mid to late May, by the time the beer's out and in people's hands. So we'll keep you well updated on that, and obviously all the other stuff we're hoping to announce in the coming weeks. Bit of a slow week beer news wise, wasn't it? This summer, I'm going to be hosting talks at the Manchester, Bristol and London craft beer festivals, giving festival goers the chance to attend tutored tastings, rare beer pours, meet the brewers and even guided tours of the bars. These 3 festivals are the highlights of my events calendar, featuring some of the world's best breweries with delicious restaurant pop-ups, great music and a really welcoming party atmosphere. It's the 3rd year I've been hosting the We Are Beer Tastings table, but for the first time I'm delighted to offer all of our listeners, viewers and Patreons £5 off a ticket when you use the code CBC5. Just hit the link in the description to buy. See you there.
Yeah, there's not a lot, Johnny. What have I observed in the news? Yeah, not a lot, Johnny. Someone's beer
You're
garden.
stalling enough there, but
Someone's beer garden was ripped down, Johnny.
oh no.
I think it's a publican. Sounds like he didn't get it cleared. Maybe.
Oh, he didn't get the permission.
He spent £13,000, Johnny.
Oh,
One
God.
complaint later, and he's ripping it down. Yeah, another Daily Fail headline: Tenerife needs higher quality tourists. I'm presuming they don't like.
Oh, I
much
saw this, yeah,
beer.
because all they do
They're
is
drinking.
come and like drink cans of beer and eat chips, and they're not actually
Yeah,
spending anything.
That's what I did in the Isle of Wight, Johnny.
Yeah,
I
but you
didn't really.
just ate donuts and drank beer.
Donuts, yeah.
Yeah.
Half pints of cask beer. I didn't cause too much trouble.
Just a half. It's only the Isle of Wight,
Yeah.
guys. It's just
Yeah,
a
you don't
quick
wanna go
holiday.
crazy.
Not going to have a whole pint.
Dude, it is so steep there. Have you been to the Isle of Wight? They're like the roads are like mountain goat roads. They're insane.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, yeah, it's a rocky outcrop of an island. Yeah, I guess it's pretty steep.
I think they're maybe the most dangerous roads in Europe. No, they're not.
I think if
They
it
are
was, the
quite
Sun or
severe.
the Daily Mail would have said something about that, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
The only thing I know about the roads of the Isle of Wight, other than having walked along a couple of them, is that I had a friend at university. So when I got to university, I'd failed my driving test. I went to university without a driving license, and I remember chatting to somebody who was from the Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
And she was like, I've got a driving license, but there's no dual carriageways on the Isle of Wight, so I've never driven on a motorway or dual carriageway. Wow. And yet she could drive all over the UK, having never seen two lanes before.
She should have had they should have a baby license, shouldn't they? Where it's you're only allowed on B roads.
Or just build, I don't know, 100 metres of dual carriageway. Just for practising.
Good. That's just made me think, Johnny. We used to work with someone from the Isle of Wight. Do you remember?
Did we?
And yeah. Do you remember he lived on the street that we worked in? Right? He had some student accommodation. It wasn't student accommodation. It was some sort of accommodation that he'd wangled.
It was key worker accommodation, wasn't it? I remember. Yeah,
key worker. That was it. And he never left the tiny little area that we worked in, which I always thought that's because he's from the Isle of Wight. So he's got this super local mentality where he's like, this is my little town. And he just basically kicks around that little bit of
I think
the location.
Because I come from a vaguely country kind of area, and when I went to university in a vaguely kind of country area, and I remember when I moved to London, people being like, "Oh, it's too big. It's too big that they're in London."
Yeah.
And I kind of found that you do kind of village a little bit, don't you? I lived in Kentish Town, and I would say that I probably spent 95% of my time in Kentish Town.
It's a nice town.
Well, I mean, if you live in Kentish Town, sure. Yeah. Maybe if you live in I can't think of a place of London that isn't cool now. Everywhere's had their moment, but
Catford Town's not particularly cool.
I don't want to say it. I don't know. I mean, he must have left at some point.
I don't think so. I used to ask him. I used to say have you been to Camden or anything? He'd be like, nope.
Oh.
Or we'd be like, we're going here. Do you want to come? Because I was friends with him and stuff, and he'd be like, oh no. But if you were going anywhere nearby, he'd be like, "Yeah, I'm up for that." I'm sure I'm not being mean about that. I'm pretty sure he didn't leave. He didn't like leaving to get a bus or a tube or anything. Just stayed local.
I do not remember that element of him, but
yeah, that's good.
It would be a strange lie to tell, Brad. Anywho, I found some beer news. I mean, it's a slightly. There are some wild assumptions made, but basically there's a story about a potential boycott of Molson Coors happening.
Oh.
So I'm sure everybody's hearts are bleeding right now, but so they, much like AB InBev a year or two ago, they've had some union action, which I know the big boys hate. So the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, which is a union, and they represent 420 workers at Molson Coors Brewery in Texas. They've been on strike, Brad, since February 17th.
Wow. That's such a good name, isn't it? What did you call it? The
International Brotherhood of Teamsters. I thought you might like that, yeah.
But they're not are they actually international, or are they just in America? Because I've only heard of Teamsters in America.
You're asking me to dig further into this story than I have. I'm not going to lie.
It's such a cool name, isn't it? I thought Teamsters were associated with the mob. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't want to get hit by the Teamsters.
Maybe it started off as the mob, and now they're like, we're going to do some good in the world.
Yeah.
And be a
cool
union.
Name.
But anyway, so they've been on strike for nearly 2 months now, Brad.
Yeah.
And do you want to hear? Initially, Molson Coors offered them a $1 an hour wage increase. This is a company that made $12 billion profit last year.
It's a nice little fuck you. Yeah.
Exactly that. But so they came back from the strike very recently and were offered 5 cents more an hour.
Ooh. What, and they took it?
No. So now they're calling for a boycott. Okay.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right,
yeah.
Right.
They're like, this is outrageous.
Did they drop it from $1 or they went to $1.05?
$1.05, yeah.
That's just insulting.
It is
insulting.
And that's what the International Brotherhood of Teamsters have said.
You do not disrespect the International Brotherhood of Teamsters.
No, clearly
especially not with a measly 5 cent Upgrade. That's terrible. I'm on their side.
Do you want to hear their
United.
quote? It's a good quote, right?
How many Fs has it got in it? No Fs.
It doesn't need to. It's powerful enough. Jeff Padellero, so possibly an Italian mobster, says, "We can't even call this an offer. It's spitting in the face of each of the 420 Teamsters in Texas.
Wow.
Who make this company and its executives obscenely wealthy."
It's true. He's got a point.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
It's good. That does sound pretty strong. I reckon they should hold fast.
I agree, and we should all be boycotting.
Mm.
We should be supporting the International Brother of Teamsters, all 420 people.
I don't know if we should be on record saying we should be supporting them.
Boycott them.
I don't know how shady they are.
If you bring in 12 billion... Oh, right. Oh, you mean we don't know the ethics of the International Brother of Teamsters?
I have no idea.
Right, you're happy to boycott Molson Coors, but just possibly not in the name of Italian gangsters.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think I need to drink another Molson Coors beer anytime soon.
Do you know, well, I had a couple in the blind taste tests. The last time I sort of, out in the wild, drank a Molson Coors beer, it was Blue Moon at Centre Parks, I think. I go to all the glamorous places.
Great. Did it have a bit of orange in it?
Yeah, it did. But it was awful.
Yeah, it's
like,
not
genuinely... it felt more watery than, like, Coors Light, because it had this suggestion of flavour, and probably these extracts of flavour, but was clearly still trying to be a light beer.
Mate, what are you complaining about? That's what the orange is for. The orange is doing the heavy lifting in that beer equation. It's like, give them a slice of orange. This tastes terrible. We better do something about it, chaps. Let's put a slice of orange in there.
Could be. But so I for one, am going to make the huge sacrifice of not drinking more Blue Moon at Centre Parks. Although I am currently on the hunt for Murphy's Stout for a blind taste test. So I am still drinking big macro beer that's, I don't think, especially tasty.
Yeah.
I don't think Murphy's is supposed to be that great, but I don't know whether I've ever had it before.
I've had it. It's all right. It's all right, Johnny. I don't think it's going to rock your world, especially not out of a can. But yeah, best of luck with that. You said you could find it somewhere I thought was quite interesting.
Well, people are telling me that it's available in Tesco's and Spar. So
it was a Spar that
yeah, well, apparently it's in Tesco as well, but I've never seen it in there. So I'm going to try Spar first. I'm going to have to go to Stevenage, which is not something I try to avoid generally.
Johnny goes to Stevenage.
There's a Spar there, and if they don't have it, I've got to go to Luton.
Dude, I think we need a vlog of you trying to find Murphy's and Spars around
just driving around the home counties.
Yeah.
Trying to find Murphy's in a Spar.
Murphy's in the heartland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the county of opportunity, I'll have you know, Hertfordshire. I don't know whether that opportunity extends to macro-owned bang average nitro stouts, but maybe it will.
There's only one way to find out.
I feel like I'm perjuring myself? No, biasing myself here. It might be great. It might win the blind taste test. I certainly hope, actually, that it beats BrewDog, who, update on that. David's excellent investigative work continues. He's now spoken to a manager at the... I think we can all say it's BrewDog now, because there has been an open letter sent by the workers of BrewDog Waterloo, and a manager has responded and sided with them for lots of reasons. But the one that shocked me most was he said that one Saturday in this pub, like the water was shut off. They had no water. So they couldn't flush loos, they couldn't wash hands, they couldn't wash dishes, they couldn't wash glassware, they couldn't rinse glassware, they couldn't serve tap water to the customers, which I think is a legal requirement. They couldn't do any of that. So they called the emergency tech team at BrewDog and said, you need to send somebody down. BrewDog sent somebody down and they said, just stay open, but there's nothing we can do.
Wow.
So the manager thankfully closed the bar. He was like, no, we're not staying open. It's illegal.
That's pretty crazy.
So, yeah, that rumbles on. BrewDog will be included in the taste test. in the interest of neutrality. But I really hope it doesn't win.
I saw Yeezy, that fellow, the musician, is I think he's being like sued by people that work for him, and because of like working conditions, right? One of the things he cited as doing, which they said was inhumane, was he called them all into the office to tell them off, and then he made them watch the Batman on mute in silence. Which I was like, what kind of strange torture is this? It's kind of I like that film a lot. It's very cool. But I mean, a lot of it is to do with the audio. The audio is great. But I was like, what a weird way of torturing people.
What was the justification? That has to have come from somewhere. Like one of them saying like.
Apparently, he also he when he's gonna like fire someone, he said like he puts on a Super Mario voice. I read this. I'm not making this up. He puts on a Super Mario voice and goes. He threatens to fire them, and then he goes, "You wins one more life," or something, like as if he's given them one more credit to like not get fired, basically in a Super Mario voice.
Wow,
which is pretty odd.
Which rapper is Yeezy now? I've lost track of all the different names they have.
It's what's his name, isn't it? Jesus Walks Man. I can't remember what it is. Kanye
West, right? Okay.
Yeah. Apparently, this is what he's. Right, this is the sort of stuff he gets up to. I was like, this guy he's pretty imaginative to do the dark night thing.
If we can find any kind of positive from those horrible stories, it's that at least he harasses with imagination.
Hit it with imagination.
Right, so boycott Yeezy, boycott Molson Coors, boycott BrewDog. Should we talk about this week's video?
Go on then.
Right, so this was our first What Even Is in quite a while. I didn't realise it's been ages since we did one. And this is What Even Is West Coast Pilsner, which I would say we had great fun. It's a delicious beer from Wild Horse, as we've already said. And we got to talk lots about all the different kinds of lager, which is one of my favourite topics because everyone assumes that lager is just this great homogeneous blob of overcarbonated yellow piss water. Horrible phrasing. But the comments, they're kind of fiery, some of them.
Fiery, you say?
Yeah, some of them. People are endlessly frustrated at the rebranding of beers, I think it's fair to say. Mm-hmm. People are cynical of the creation of new styles. Yeah. And they're not afraid to say it.
I've picked all really positive. I mean, I get where they're coming from there, to be honest, because it is a lot of it is marketing and stuff. But I think this is genuinely quite an interesting style, isn't it, Johnny? That sort of brings two different worlds together, and it's a good name for it because it sort of says what both things do.
It's Ron Seal, that's for sure. That's what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
So we had a comment from Exeter City Cubing 408 who said, "Just another fad to create excitement. That's what craft beer is, right?" And apparently, I responded with probably overly in-depth explanation of why that was a bit cynical and how we've been creating new beer styles for years. You know, that this is how we get new flavours and exciting stuff in beer, by innovating, and we have to find names to explain it to people. To which he just replied, like, I was joking. So I made a fool of myself there. But there was that sentiment throughout quite a few comments. And also one that came up quite a lot was people asking about NZ, New Zealand Pilsner.
Yes.
So and sort of where that fits in. So David Mallard 8729. I can't believe there's 8,729 David Mallards, but said, interesting discussion. I'm wondering where you place NZ Pilsner. This is a style that regularly features on my brew list. Happy accident is that I've had success using the California common yeast, and my NZ Steam Pilsner is very popular with my brew buddies. So NZ Pilsner, we've never done a What Even Is NZ Pilsner, because I don't think that actually is a style. From my experience and knowledge of that style of beer, I think that really all they've done is switch out switch out classic European hops, Saaz, Tettnang, Hallertau, and put, mostly Motueka in.
Yeah.
Some of these breweries are dry hopping them, but nowhere near the extent that goes into a West Coast Pilsner. So I just sort of see it as a subcategory or a little twist on German Pilsner, really. So that's where I'd say it sort of fits. I'd say, it's a little subcategory of classic European Pilsners. It's not a whole new thing. You'd never sniff an NZ Pilsner and go, is this an IPA? Which you definitely do with West Coast Pilsners, because they're just sort of subtle and lemony. Motueka is a direct descendant of Saaz. It's crossbred from Saaz, so it's got a lot of that, very low alpha, but it's just got more kind of lemon, lime, tropical notes than Saaz does.
We had an interesting comment from someone from New Zealand on this video. Hallowed Ground 4101. I absolutely love West Coast Pilsner. I live in New Zealand, and the West Coast Pilsner, especially ones made with Riwaka and Riwaka Clone, have been my beer of the summer. Light, crispy, and hoppy as shit.
Right, so even in NZ, they're seeing it as a very separate thing.
Yeah, it must be. So he's obviously not seeing it as an NZ Pilsner. It's a WC Pilsner. Is Riwaka? That's presumably that's a New Zealand hop, is it?
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah, not one I'd necessarily use in a Pilsner. Like it's quite, or it can be quite. I'm trying to think of a nicer flavour descriptor, but a little bit meaty.
Oh God. Yeah. Okay.
Like big quantities of things like Chinook and stuff can get, like just really dark, like beyond pine and resin, and getting a little bit kind of woody. I don't know, it's hard to describe Riwaka. It's a really interesting hop that offers a lot of different things, and in small quantities adds a lot of depth to beers, but sticking that in a lager, I'd have thought it would overpower it.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like something I'd particularly want to drink, to be honest.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, like it can make beautiful, beautiful beer, and it's not all about that character, but I think that in something that is all Pilsner malt, you're if there is that character in that particular hop, it's going to come out.
Yeah, we had another person from the Southern Hemisphere, Daniel Taylor, said hoppy lager, Italian Pilsner, New Zealand Pilsner, IPA, West Coast Pilsner, all have been welcome additions to my fridge this past Southern Hemisphere summer. So it's obviously a well-known thing for our Antipodean buddies.
It's gone international already. And yet we are slightly behind on this craze. It has been going on for a couple of years, but it's only really reached the UK.
Yeah.
I would say in sort of the last 18 months or so. And we wanted to get this video right and have some great examples before we did a video. So I'm not surprised it's gone international, but if you contrast that, say, with like cold IPA, which is still outside of the West Coast, very niche.
It's an interesting thing, right? That the Southern Hemisphere peeps have their summer when we have our winter. So potentially, if a new beer style comes out that's a good summer or a winter beer, they could be having a whole season of it before we do, and enjoying it a whole 6 months before we do, if it's a new beer style.
True, very true.
Which is interesting to think about.
Well, lucky them.
Or they could be a whole 6 months behind, depending on its origin and where
what time it comes out.
In the year.
Yeah,
but that's quite interesting to think about.
What other comments did you have?
We had a lot of love for the format. Justina said, "Hooray! What even is back again," which I quite liked. Is back again. We had some love for Rothouse Pills.
Amen.
Mr. Rigelot, favourite of the channel, said, "Sounds like the perfect gateway for that friend who refuses to drink IPA because they think it's a hipster thing." So that's
Yeah,
what we were
potentially.
saying a lot in the video. Is like, this is a meeting of minds. This beer style, and it can, if you're in Team IPA or Team Lager Pilsner, you're gonna be all over this and enjoying it in the summertime.
I hope so. I think that if people aren't drinking craft beer because they think it's for hipsters, I'm not sure this will persuade them.
Yes,
They might even think, "Oh my god, the hipsters are coming from my Pilsner," which is definitely the vibe I got from some other comments.
Maybe we had a lot of people saying they'd love to see this as a homebrew episode, which I think would be really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to experiment, have a go at that over the summer. But we're actually little sneak preview. We're more likely to be making an IPL very soon, despite in the video me saying they're kind of irrelevant.
Yes.
But we do have a very, very good reason for bringing back the IPL, which we'll unveil hopefully in a month or so.
So we were obviously talking Tudno Pills in the video, but we did talk about Timbo Pills a fair bit too. And Grant Warmouth said Timbo Pills is top tier. Drinking it at Highland Park is a bucket list experience in craft beer. We had somebody else.
Just before you move on from Timbo Pills, I had a comment from Rob Dunn 25 who said, if I went to my local tap room and ordered half of their German Pilsner and half a West Coast IPA and mixed them together, would that be a West Coast Pils or would I be asked to leave? Which I don't think you'd be asked to leave, hopefully. I would say don't do half and half, do 1/3 IPA, 2/3 Pilsner, probably be a closer match to the flavour profile. But equally, if anybody tries to make you leave, say this is how the style was invented. You can't kick me out for recreating the original West Coast Pilsner Timbo Pils from Highland Park. So you tell them. You tell them, Rob Dunn 25. And you tell the other 24 Rob Dunns.
I can't find the comment, but we did have someone he basically said Highland Park they go to like every month because they live there. So I feel quite jealous of that.
I mean, all reports are it's an incredible brewery and one I'd love to visit. I had a collab they did with Cloudwater, fresh off the line when I was up there. I must have been doing photos for a year in beer. Had it fresh off the line, and it was one of the best IPAs I had that year. It was absolutely banging and very much up my street, like hazy, juicy, but really dry, and about 60 IBUs. It was beautiful.
Just people saying that they hope this style gets more popular, along with people saying they hope Italian Pils has become more popular. It seems like a lot of these styles are not that easy to find in different parts of the world.
But there's a definite appetite for hoppy lager, whether it's Italian Pils, NZ Pils, West Coast Pils,
exactly,
whatever it is. People want big hop aroma from in a lager-like package.
So if you're in a part of the world and you're a brewery and then you can't get anything like this, start making it because you'll probably sell a bucket load of it.
Yeah, I reckon so.
and call it an IPA, and then you'll sell even more.
Yeah, maybe. Well, so we actually we have a question sent in again. We have a chance to redeem ourselves, Bradley, because Niles, despite the awful treatment we gave him, has sent in another question. And we have the opportunity to call him Radel. Niles Radel.
Niles Radel. Yeah.
I say we play that to the good folks at home, and then we'll answer the question.
Hey, Johnny and Brad. Niles Radel here. Thanks for the shout-out last week, and of course, all is forgiven. My question this week is, how do you feel about the modern-day naming convention of newer beer styles? I can understand that newer styles are trying to market themselves as something familiar to people so that they somewhat know what to expect, but it also seems to me that the historic styles that we have come to know and love have unique names and were new at one point in time as well. One of the most recent ones I can think of is how the Cascadian Dark Ale has just become the Black IPA, because if you have IPA in the name, it sells more. Anyway, I'd love to know your thoughts around this. Cheers.
So thank you, Niles Radel. Hopefully I have actually inserted that audio and you haven't heard me and Brad just bumbling around making sure we understood the question. So yeah, how do we feel about sort of the naming of beer styles? I definitely agree with Niles that it would be nice if more unique and interesting and exciting names were given, rather than essentially the names being references to flavors or approaches that people might be familiar with. Like, the most awesome example, I guess, of sort of an interesting name would be the Porter, which was named after the people that were drinking it. So it must have come slightly later than the actual beer style. But I think that's a lovely way of doing it. And Cascadian Dark Ale is another great example, being named after sort of where the style was invented and where the hops were coming from. Just on that point with the Black IPA, Cascadian Dark Ale thing, I don't know whether it's quite accurate to say that it's become the Black IPA, because there's kind of two origins of that style. One, obviously, in the Pacific Northwest, and the other one is at the Alchemist Brewery, and along with Hill Farmstead, who came up with a style like that as well. And they very early on were calling it Black IPA. So I think those two names would have come up at similar times, and Cascadian Dark Ale's kind of been lost. But I remember a couple of years ago reading a great article by Jeff of Beervana, one of my favourite beer blogs, and he was talking about how Black IPAs are actually quite different to Cascadian Dark Ales, which are generally have more of that dark roast character and a lower ABV and a kind of a little bit more almost like a black American pale ale, but heavily hopped, than they are like sort of a Black IPA, where on the East Coast with the Alchemist and Hill Farmstead, they were trying to reduce that roasty character and just kind of add, toffee and red fruits and stuff like that to the beer. So like a little bit further along than a red IPA. So there are sort of differences in those styles, but yeah, Black IPAs come to sort of dominate both of those sort of camps. And yeah, I think that kind of is a bit of a shame, because obviously a black pale ale doesn't make any sense at all, but it kind of does to the consumer. So I see why it's happened. How do you feel, Bradley?
I love the idea of making new beer styles, calling new beers new names all the time. I think it's really fun. I think it's great marketing if you've come up with it, and it feels like, maybe you can have some ownership over something, even if it's something that already exists, but you've renamed it, reclassified it. And I think, we try all these names out, and some of them, most of them frustrate and annoy a lot of people, which even that is good marketing as well, right? Because they're talking about it. People are talking about all this stuff, right? Which, as we know, it's good to be talked about. So I think it all makes stuff more exciting, even if we're annoyed and it doesn't make any sense to us. The fact that it's still happening, I find interesting. And isn't it fun to be like, ooh, this might be genuinely something I've never tried. This might be something different. I like the idea of being excited and shocked and blown away by something that I haven't tried before. And I think calling beers new names can do that. It also recontextualizes stuff, doesn't it? So names are very powerful things, as we know. Just calling something IPA, you're going to sell it. But if you like, how romantic and amazing and evocative is Cascadian Dark Ale? Sounds incredible. Having gone through the Cascades on a train, that's a great, beautiful part of the world, and I want to drink something that sounds like it's being made there, but it also sounds like a sort of Star Wars character or something they might drink in Star Wars. So yeah, I love all this stuff, but also it is a load of nonsense most of the time. But as Niall said, these older styles were dubbed, their names hundreds of years ago, or whatever, and before that they were just called something else, or they might not have existed, but at some point they were named, and it probably annoyed the local people and the people of the time that they had that name.
I'd love to see what the reaction was to the name Porter back then. Yeah.
I mean, would the Porters have found that derogatory, or would they have been like, this is great, we've got our own beer, boys? Presumably it was a term of affection, wasn't it, really? And I think all of these things are deeply tied into culture. Maybe not
I mean,
Maybe
it
not
would,
some of the
I
silly
guess it
names
probably
now,
would
but-
have come from like a bit like how IPA, India Pale Ale, came from beer, pale ale as prepared for India. Porter was probably like started off as like the beer for porters or the beer the porters drink, and then it became porter beer, and then it just became porter. So, like, I mean, I don't know whether affection is quite the right word, but it just would have been, we brew this beer for this market, so we call it that.
Yeah, it's shorthand, isn't it? As well, it's just what makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it's great, and I think words and names and all this terminology is really powerful. Powerful tools to educate, but also powerful to like influence your mind.
I mean,
and
it's
make
interesting
stuff.
on that point to note that Cascadian Dark Ale has kind of died out as a term. So the one that didn't, immediately tell you what that beer was going to taste like has struggled to sort of break through into the lexicon. So, it would be great. And things like Brut IPA is quite a good name for what that is. They could have just called it Dry IPA or something, Super Dry IPA or something around that. Well, actually, they'd probably got in trouble with that. But there are some cool names coming out, but they tend to struggle to get their point across, I guess. So I wish there was more nuance in the world, but sadly, I'm not sure. Not sure the world is that nuanced itself. Certainly doesn't want to see nuance. It wants to know exactly what it's about to drink. And I guess with that.
The other thing that's interesting is like you could see it as being a bit poncy or whatever, that you're naming these things instead of being like straightforward for a consumer and going, well, it's it's an IPA, isn't it? You are kind of not gatekeeping, but you're making it sound different or fancier or something that maybe isn't for everyone. If you're calling it a complicated or a convoluted name that people don't understand what it is, so is that could be seen as a negative, I guess. Like
putting up barriers a bit.
Yeah, people like the Colonel in London, like their stuff's like super easy to understand what it is. Their names are like super unfussy, and that's done them well over time. I think people just know that they're going to get like quality product from them, and it's going to be using the best ingredients, but they're not necessarily calling something in an insane, complicated sub-style. They're kind of sticking to, this is a table beer, this is whatever. You know what I mean? It's kind of like it can be convoluted, and it can appear to be a bit show off, I think is what I'm trying to say. But also, I think it's the opposite of that too. Like, I think it can be fun, and beer should be fun. So why not have fun naming, just being creative and sort of trying to push the envelope a
maybe
bit.
There's a video in us trying to come up with a new beer style.
I'd love to.
And then naming it.
That'd be great.
That could be fun. I have no idea what that beer style would be, because if literally, if you'd said, Johnny, you need to create a new beer style, what are you looking for? I'd have probably come up with the West Coast Pilsner. Yeah. Like, I genuinely think that is something that the craft beer market needs. But
I think that what might be an interesting video is filming with some advertising agency peeps about how they market stuff, and maybe asking them how we would come up with a new
go to Saatchi and Saatchi and ask them to name our new beer style.
100%. I went to St Martin's with people that have worked for Saatchi and Saatchi and all these huge advertising companies around the world, kind of ad men, as it were. So I could probably ask some friends, but
well, there we go. This podcast has turned into an episode brainstorm. Let us know what you think of that idea at home. Maybe what style you think needs to be invented, and we could work on it. That could be a really fun homebrew and beer culture kind of episode. Who knew, given that we started with a 10-minute soliloquy about fried donuts on the Isle of Wight, that we'd actually produce A, a beer podcast, B, a playlist idea, and C, actual intrigue to finish. Anyway, I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. We'll see you on Wednesday for a very special upload, a very exciting upload, one that took a lot of research. And and the edit is proven to be a nightmare of as a result. So you enjoy that one. We'll see you on Wednesday at 4 p.m. and obviously we'll see you on Friday at 5 p.m. next week for some more vaguely beer-related nonsense. Love and beer. The Bubble and Friday 5pm podcasts are brought to you by the nerds behind YouTube's craft beer channel. You can watch over 400 mini documentaries at youtube.com/the craft beer channel, and if you love what we do, support us via Patreon and get access to merchandise and our amazing Discord forum, a positive and welcoming space for everyone who loves beer, food and homebrewing. Love and beer.